the Giants lost to the Cowboys, much to my disappointment, even though, frankly, Daniel Jones played one of his best games as a pro, and I know the stat line isn't going to show it, and I don't think he's the quarterback of the future. But the idea that he was at fault for that loss is actually makes me mad because he was under duress the whole night and made some really clutch throws and plays. But with that aside, one of the big stories to come out of that night was that Sterling Shepard, veteran wide receiver on the team, he's the longest tenured Giant still on the roster. He suffered a non-cut ACL tear, which he was just jogging down the field. It looked fairly innocuous at home at MetLife Stadium. And he's still close friends with one of my favorite players of all time who's ever put on a Giants uniform, Odell Beckham Jr., who tweeted this out about this injury, talking about field turf in particular, which is what is used at MetLife Stadium and in around half of the home games played in the NFL. He says, "Just get rid of all the fucking together, bro. Billions made off this game, and I can't understand why we can't play on grass. That shit is rough. Prayers up for my brother. Shit just hurts my heart." And they're obviously super close. This is not a new conversation. But Odell Beckham Jr. is not the only person speaking out about this. Here is John Harbaugh talking about this because at the same stadium, MetLife, Baltimore lost when playing the Jets, Juwan James, who's a tackle on the team, and Kyle Fuller, who's in the secondary, to similar kinds of injuries on the same field. And you'll recall that this conversation began when the 49ers played the Jets a few years back, and they lost, I believe, Solomon Thomas and Nick Bosa that same game to tears like this. And so here is John Harbaugh basically saying, field turf's got to go.
Everybody in this league should do everything they can to put the best surface out there. You've got how much is invested in the players that go out there and play, and our league really is, it's a player-driven league, and we want those guys to have the best of the best, especially surfaces to play on. You know, you can't always get everything. I look at Steve Bisciotti, for instance, and, you know, we had, like, it was like 7, 8, 9 years ago, the players went to Steve and asked for grass. And Steve said right away, yes. That was his answer. He didn't even blink, said yes. He put the best grass you can put in out there for our climate, and you guys have seen how well it plays. I mean, Coach Tomlin is always, he loves our grass. You know, when he comes in, he goes, I can't believe how great this grass is. You know, and then we talk about grass before the game. That's you were wondering, right?
I love John.
Credit Cleveland, you know, and the Haslam's for what they've done there with the grass, and so I just feel like it's something that Pittsburgh, obviously the Rooneys, you know, what they've done. So that turf was, you know, it's a turf field. It was matted down. It was packed down. It was a little tight. Maybe that's how it's supposed to be. I don't know, but you know, that's what I saw. It just was a little tough, you know.
So, I mean, he has to be careful in what he's saying there because he can't look like publicly that he's criticizing half of the owners in the league for being cheap and rolling out grass. But that's the case. And I am deeply disappointed that my New York Giants are engaged in this, which is one of the most profitable and popular flagship franchises within the NFL, even if they're not very good and haven't been for a while. But John Mara has the ear.
Everybody in this league.
No, it's okay. John Mara has the ear of Roger Goodell, and he's one of the big players in the ownership group in the NFL. And I don't know what the case is, and the fact that they share a stadium with Woody Johnson probably adds to the fact where he's like, I'm not going to pony up for grass. But still, regardless, the Maras, let's get to it. This is ridiculous and embarrassing for the Giants and Jets Stadium to have this kind of surface. And people might not understand exactly why ACL injuries in particular are more likely to happen on this kind of surface, but here's the best way I can explain it. And by the way, when Odell tweeted that, Odell also tore his ACL in the Super Bowl at SoFi Stadium on turf. Turf is stickier. So these high-level athletes are cutting at such a fast velocity that the grip from the shoe, from the cleat to the surface, it when your foot plants into the ground, when the turf is stickier, that means that your ligaments, say your knee, might be moving and your foot is still planted into the ground. So it creates a higher likelihood that your foot gets stuck and then your knee tears. And so that's why you see ACL injuries in particular happen on places like that have turf.
I mean, it's just like I was kind of making this point a few weeks ago when I was at the game that Kyle Fuller and Juwan James both sustained injuries with the Jets and the Ravens. It is infrastructural stuff like that can sometimes be emblematic of what's both going on the field as well as off the field. And to me, it is simply disgraceful that a player on his home field can be essentially jogging down the field with another player not even within 10 yards of him and tear his ACL and be out for the season. It's not only a disgrace and an embarrassment, it's also a testament to a bad product and not wanting the product to be better.
Well, and what the product for the owners means ticket revenue, it means TV deals, but they are honestly not even incentivized. I'll be as callous as possible. Player goes out, hey, some guaranteed money's gone.
That's the problem. Of course, that we've talked about in the past is that they can print money regardless of what's going on the field.
Regardless of what happens to the players.
It doesn't actually matter.
And that's the problem with this. I mean, one, this is why this is a labor issue, because Sterling Shepard may never play a game in the Giants uniform again, and he may never play in the NFL again. And I know he's had injuries before, and for example, yes. Saquon Barkley tore his knee tore his ACL 2 years ago at Soldier Field, and they have rolling grass. But half the teams, or I should say half of the games played, because there are some stadiums that are shared, are played on turf. The Giants and the Jets, as I mentioned, the Rams and the Chargers at SoFi, which is inexcusable because, again, there's more money coming into these when you have two teams playing at a stadium. And that's a very newly constructed stadium. That's where Odell tore his ACL. The Saints play on turf. And it's in a dome, dude. You can have rolling grass. The Seahawks play on turf. The Texans play on turf. The Cowboys, all that fancy TV work that they did in that stadium. Jerry made a Jerry World, and it looks so glossy on television.
Yeah, it's like all state of the art and futuristic and whatever, but like you can't.
But not for my players.
You can't put grass on the field that won't lead to a higher incidence rate of terrible contact and non-contact injuries. I thought the purpose of this league was football players playing football.
Yeah, well,
and playing football without it. Of course, when you're playing football, there's an inordinate risk of injury, but it should be from maybe getting tackled. It shouldn't be from walking on fucking grass or turf, as it were.
It's
Pardon
nuts.
my language.
No, I mean I've already opened up the bomb Pandora's box.
Yeah, I'll put explicit in our tags.
But like the thing about it is that what Harbaugh says there, he mentions how the Steelers have grass fields, and the Maras and the Rooneys, of course, have this familial connection, but I will always say that the Steelers run their organization better than what the Giants do, and that's an example of it. And there's no excuse that it's a cold weather climate stadium, because the Packers do it too. They also have grass. And there are also indoor fields that have grass stadiums, including the newly constructed Allegiant Stadium, where the Vegas Raiders play, and in Arizona. So
in Vegas?
Sorry?
Did you say Arizona or Vegas?
Both.
Oh, both have them. Okay.
Yeah. So the reason that these owners don't want to do it is because when you have turf, you don't have to keep up the grass, right? And you don't have to roll it out when, say, you have like a concert that's happening at an outdoor arena, but it does eat the cost, and it should be mandated by the league. So
right, because ostensibly the reasons are it's inconvenient.
Yeah.
For us, because we want to be able to cut a cost as a conduit to be making more money, i.e. using the arena or the stadium as an event space as well. And B, they essentially don't want to do like housekeeping on it.
Yep.
Like it's inexcusable.
And this
Like,
league is so profitable, more profitable than it's ever been, especially with gambling money coming in. So enough. Grass everywhere. It's a labor issue, and honestly, this needs to be a part of the negotiations in the next CBA.
100%.